Maddie, congratulations. Third semi-final in Melbourne, 10 years after the first. How does that feel?
It feels great. I'm really, really proud of myself to be in another semi-final here, and kind of hoping and looking forward to see if I can make it one step further.
Okay. Questions?
Maddie, I understand Francis has a bit of a tongue-in-cheek nickname for you, calling you Mum in the past, in reference to your longevity on tour. I guess now that you have made semis 10 years apart, what is it sort of a validation and a nice little, are you going to send a text to him, or how do you react to that now?
No, I probably won't text him. We have this kind of joke where in the past he wouldn't say anything, pre-tournament or anything, and then he would text me like in the quarters or the semis or something, and I would lose the next round. So we have this new rule where, I saw him a few days ago, and I said, "Don't text me. Like, I don't want to hear from you at all. Just leave me alone, and we'll talk after the tournament."
Manny?
Congrats, Maddie. On that topic, though, you started this journey really young. Your first win at 14, right? How satisfying is it to have kind of enjoyed such a full career, I guess, where you're continuing to improve, throughout it?
It feels great. I think starting as young as I did, I don't know if I would have, had the full awareness that I was going to be here, 16 years later. But I think it's a really great era of tennis right now, because you can still be playing some of your best tennis as 30 is approaching. And even past that, even today, Alina was playing fantastic tennis, and she was another one that I played juniors with her, and we both kind of went pro really early. So there's just so many players now that into their 30s, they're playing some really great tennis, and I think it's really nice to see all of these people that I played juniors with that, we're still out here.
Is that a bit weird, actually, to know that you've played these people for so long in your life?
I think it's more, funny when you think about all of the versions of each other that you've played throughout all of the years. And I think when I was playing juniors, there were quite a few of us that actually made it into the pros and are continuing to play. So it's funny, and it's also a little bit, it's a little bit interesting, I guess, just to be able to see so many different people kind of evolve through so many different points of their career.
David?
Given that there have been 10 years that have passed, I just wonder what you can remember about yourself in terms of how you viewed everything 10 years ago, and maybe with the experience you've had, if you were able to go back and just give yourself a few words of advice about how to handle it and the future, what would you say?
I think if I could go back, I would just say try to enjoy it a little bit more, and maybe try not to put as much pressure on yourself that it had to be right now. And I think there's been a handful of times in my career where it kind of felt like if it didn't happen right now, would it ever happen? And I think I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to appreciate my career for what it has been, and it doesn't have to have a Grand Slam in order for me to look at it and say I've done a really good job and I've really left everything out there. Now, while that's obviously still the goal, I think there have been periods of my career where it felt like if I didn't win one, then I hadn't done enough, and I didn't live up to my potential and all of that. And I think that kind of took a lot of the fun out of the game, and I think it also just there was times where it just kind of felt a little bit paralyzing out on the court, because it felt so, it felt as if I needed it to happen instead of giving myself the opportunity to go out and potentially do it.
Similarly, how do you feel like your experience on tour, looking back 10 years ago, can help you in this semifinal coming in a couple of days?
I think now that I've been in this position a few times, I can, definitely try to lean in on that. And at this point, I mean, everyone's also won some really great matches, and we're all playing some really good tennis. So I think that this is really, what they call the business end of the tournament. So as much as you have experience and all of that, at the end of the day, it's also, you just have to go out and do your best and leave it all out there. And I think as long as I can do that, no matter what happens, then I can walk away with my head held high.
Hi, Madison, well done. The different pattern to this match than in the other match, and I'm curious sort of, the difference between like the second set and then the turnaround in the third set the other day versus, the way you started today and what got you turned around and on the front foot this afternoon.
I think I just started a little bit, I think I started a little flat today. I think that I was trying to be aggressive and set the point up, but I wasn't necessarily taking advantage of the balls that I was getting in return from that, and then allowing her to kind of defend well enough that then she got on offense. And I think in the second set, I really just started trying to get to the net a lot more and really kind of take advantage of some of the short balls that I was getting. And just being able to do that, I feel like I just kind of, ran with the momentum after that.
And was that sort of your own read, or are you talking with your box through it to work that out?
I mean, I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Okay, Simon, then Paul.
Hi, Madison. When your serve's obviously a big part of your game, but I noticed that when you win the coin toss, you often choose to receive. What's your thought process behind that in general?
I think sometimes I like to receive just because I think coming out and serving first sometimes there's some nerves, and I think there's a lot of opportunity that you can get up an early break potentially. Honestly, it kind of just depends. Like, I've served first, I return first. It doesn't truly matter, but I think sometimes I kind of like the opportunity to just kind of really get some good swings and some good hits before I have to serve first.
You change it depending on how you feel on the day.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, well done. Iga's just wrapped up, so yeah, if you could just give us your thoughts on specifics of her game that makes her such an incredible threat, especially it seems this last couple of weeks, and just take us back when you have beaten her once before in Cincy a few years back, what it is from your game that you have to bring to really compete in a couple of days.
I think Iga is tough to play because she has a lot of spin kind of naturally on both sides. She's a good server, she's a good returner, she moves incredibly well. And I think the biggest thing that makes her so difficult to beat is because since she moves so well, if you miss your spot just slightly, she has enough time to recover, and then the point goes back to neutral. So I think it's really hard to ever really get ahead in a point, and I think for most of us out here, you're not really going to try to out defend Iga. So I think that's where, and then there's just such a balance of being aggressive and trying to get her to move and going for things, but not pressing too hard and not going for anything too quickly. So I think she just does such a good job at making people start going for a little bit too much too quickly. I think when I won that match in Cincinnati, I also love the courts in Cincinnati. They play pretty fast. I grew up playing in Cincy. And it was just kind of one of those days where the ball felt lively and I was able to kind of get ahead a little bit earlier in the point consistently, and just was able to kind of run with that pressure. And I feel like every other time I've played her, it's been on like the slowest court ever, and she's just gotten every single ball back over.
Very last couple.
Hey Madison, congrats on the win. I just wanted to ask about the crowds here in Australia, especially in comparison to, I guess, your home slam and the other slams. There was a lot of Americans on Rod Laver. So yeah, how was it for you?
I always really love playing here. I have typically had some really great crowd support. And there are quite a few Americans pretty much on every court where you go here. So it's always nice to have some homegrown support as well. I think every slam has a different vibe for all of the fans. I would say here is definitely like the most fun. They love tennis. They're loud. They're lively. But I've always really enjoyed my time here, and other than having to play an Australian here, I'm usually in a crowd that is pretty supportive.
Okay, final question.
On the crowd, I wanted to ask, you mentioned coming out a little bit flat at the start. It certainly felt a bit emptier, I guess, this morning, and there's been some criticism about sort of scheduling the women's match early and trying to get them out of the way from Pam Shriver and others. Have you felt... did you feel any of that in the atmosphere when you were coming out, or have you got any thoughts on, the attendance at matches like yours, a significant quarterfinal?
No, I haven't. I mean, I personally really enjoy playing earlier in the day. And I think you kind of know that it's probably not going to be at its max capacity just because people are kind of slowly coming in. I would say that the crowd definitely had nothing to do with the reason why I was starting flat. And I mean, to be totally honest, I didn't even think about it or never even crossed my mind.